Good evening. I'm Brian Kelly. I'm the director of the architecture program, and I'm substituting this evening for Dean David Cronrath, who somehow got double booked. But he sends his regrets, and he asked me to extend his good wishes for this evening. And I think that it's really wonderful that this group is getting together tonight with Omar to discuss issues surrounding the future of College Park and its campus and development issues in general. I think that the School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation, along with real estate development, is now fully able to engage the real meaningful issues that contribute to the betterment of our environment. And I believe that one of the reasons that we're able to do that more wholly is with the development of our youngest program in the school, that of the real estate development program. Without real estate development, without the kind of agenda that Margaret has set, I think that we would not be in a position where we were able to fully engage our community and make a real difference. And so I welcome you here this evening, ask you to enjoy yourself, and again, send David's regrets for not being here. As you may be able to detect from my voice, I'm not going to be able to stay here because I'm on the edge of some bronchial stuff, so I'm going to head out of here. But as David said, that he regretted having to miss such a wonderful evening as this one. So I'm going to pass the podium over to Germano Gomez, who's going to do some introducing of the introducer. Take care.
Well, good evening, everybody. I know so many faces here. It feels like I'm speaking in front of my family. Many of you know me from the introductory class, 688X. I may have tutored some of you. Some people know me from teachers, meetings in the summertime, but I've now accepted a position that's full-time with the university as the Associate Director of the Colvin Institute. So you'll see my face around a lot more. One of the things that I am charged with doing, and in collaboration with Margaret and the Masters of Real Estate Development program, is we're looking to expand the functions and some of the activities that we've done through the Colvin Institute. We've had some very in-depth discussions with Mr. Colvin over the summer, and set ourselves some very high goals on what we plan to do this year. So this, I want to welcome you to, is our fall 2014 lecture. I'm so glad that you all could make it out. I know it may have been tough to get here, but I'm glad to see your faces as well. So I hope you enjoy our lecture tonight. It's such a relevant topic to what we are doing, and also it is reflective of the theme of innovation that we are really carrying within the program. So listen closely, and I hope you get a lot out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Germano. I'm here with the pleasant task of introducing someone that is so important to this institution, to this town, and has been a pleasure to work with periodically on various committees I've been assigned to. So, Omar, thank you for being here. I'm going to do a brief introduction so that you all can connect it to some things that have mattered a lot in my life. Many of you would not guess, because I was born, married, divorced, and probably will die in Tacoma Park. In between there, I've lived in many other places, but including Philadelphia. And Omar has deep connections to Philadelphia. And he is now a partner and co-founder of U3 Ventures, a consulting firm for institutions and in real estate and economic development. What I think is most interesting about them is because they have connected those two concepts, which often go down different paths, and seeing the connections between them. And so their consulting advice and experience with institutions and the real estate development that occurs or does not occur around those institutions is highly relevant, and I'm sure he will speak about that this evening. I first knew Omar when he came here, but I had heard of him we hadn't had a chance to meet. So I felt very lucky, having once been to Philadelphia and seeing what West Philly looked like in the, shall we confess, in the 70s. Penn was there, a major academic institution, but surrounded by a neighborhood that had fallen on very hard times. And there were some initial efforts to have faculty, just like on this university, there's been some initial efforts to integrate the university and the city much greater. To come back in the 2000s when my son was a student in West Philadelphia, it was just very exciting to both see what had happened and what was happening during that period. So Omar, we welcome you. We're so thrilled that we have the privilege here at Maryland of having your expertise and with our real estate efforts and the connections between the university and College Park as well as others surrounding. And I welcome you to the podium. Give Omar a great hand.
Thank you, Margaret, and thanks everyone. Are we going to have the lights on, or and also, so actually my entire presentation is on my phone, so we'll see if this is going to work. So can you guys see, or we need to get this light out? We need to dim the light. So let me just say this is very personal because I'm in the real estate profession and my wife is an architect, so I think this group kind of combines and speaks very personally to who I am and what I do. So what I thought I would do today is to just give you some background about our work and really take you to different locations before we come and talk about College Park. And then my assumption, Margaret, we will open this for questions and answers. And I know a friend here would ask me very difficult questions on the side, but I'm prepared for it, Rob. I'm ready for it. So let me start by saying what I want to talk about is really the journey that we have been taking together with the current administration, Dr. Lowe, Carlo Colella, and the Dean, Dean Cronrath, and Dean even Garthrow Castle were involved from day one about 2 or so years ago. And we call it pivoting from a college in the park to a university in the city. That phrase came in because I asked about 2 or so years ago for the master plan of the institution. Master plan had a very nice bound copy, and on it was the title was "A College in the Park." And then I took that to President Lowe and I said, and what we need is really a university in a city, not a college in the park. And that really is the journey from one side to the other is what I will try to take you through today and see how we have done that, or we are attempting to do that, and what the challenges are. So as a matter of background, let me just tell you about who we are as U3 advisors. We really touch the question of eds and meds. Eds and meds, education facilities, education institutions, and medical facilities. We call them anchor institutions. They have many names, but our entire focus as a company, and we are a 16 people, 17 people firm in 3 cities, New York, Philadelphia, and Detroit. We focus on eds and meds and see that from different lenses. We see it as real estate developers, and we do actual development in Philadelphia. And then from our advisory work, we work on campus edge issues related to campus planning. We work on community development issues and town ground issues. We work on the research pipeline of institutions and how it can be fundamentally redeployed locally. We look at the economic development issues that Margaret mentioned, and all of that while different products. Our focus, our thesis, is that anchor institutions are very important to the economy of our cities and to the future of our country. So why do anchor institutions matter? They matter because they are centers for employment. They are amazing destinations for students. It's the only industry, if you think about all other industries, it's the only industry where the worker and the customer come to the same physical space every day. Just pick retail, pick manufacturing, pick any other industry. It's the only industry that if there is something that you can say place matters, it's actually eds and meds where that happened. Even on the hospital side, not the patient, the customer, and the doctor who is providing the service is actually coming to the same physical space. So space does matter quite a bit. And then the other thing that is very important, we do not see eds and meds as providers of educational services and providers of health services and health care. We actually see them as an enterprise. They hire people, they buy goods and services, they do and conduct research. They are amazing place for art curation and for the consumption and production of art. They are a huge driver of economic development. However, the country looks at eds and meds as if they are a non-productive side of the industry. Most of the conversations between mayors and between university presidents, how come you are not paying real estate taxes? And you look at, I'm hiring thousands of people and I'm defining really what Boston is, or I'm defining what Philadelphia is, but the only conversation between the mayor and the presidents is whether you are paying taxes or not. So it all started with the University of Pennsylvania. I say that because actually I'm an engineer by training. I have nothing to do with what I am doing today. Got married to an architect so that she, as I always tell my wife, she got me to be a little bit more sophisticated than my humble beginnings. And worked in management consulting at Coopers & Lybrand. Got hired by a new president in 1995 to the University of Pennsylvania. And got hired as a vice president for facilities at the time. I was 34 years old and I couldn't believe that actually an institution like Penn, an Ivy League institution, would hire me. But what attracted me the most at the time was that this was not just about running a facilities shop. Now there is great satisfaction in that, and you build buildings and you run operations and the like, but there was a whole transformational agenda that Judith Rodin, now the president of the Rockefeller Foundation, had. Penn was really in a very interesting place, an Ivy League institution that was kind of the sleepy Ivy, that it is the safe Ivy. If you cannot get to Princeton or Yale, you are guaranteed to get to Penn. Many people confused it with Penn State, so Penn had the shirts of "We are not Penn State," but fundamentally, for decades, Penn had a huge dilemma. And actually, Rob, I believe you went to Wharton, and you can, again, before you ask the difficult question...
I was part of this.
Yeah, I'm weaving you in. It was surrounded by a neighborhood that was actually declining, and a neighborhood that was full of crime, full of nuisance issues. There were two murders that happened, one for a graduate student and one for a faculty member. Literally the first several months that Judith Rodin became a president at the University of Pennsylvania. You can just imagine, students started to not feel safe. Most of the graduate students flocked to Center City where they lived. You had an entire 280 acres of an institution with not one retail shop to go to. There was nothing to actually, there were a couple of bars here and there, a couple of pizza joints, but there was nothing else. So what really was so attractive at the time, it was that a president that by chance, Judith Rodin actually was born in West Philadelphia and saw West Philadelphia in the 50s. That was very different West Philadelphia that she came to in the 90s. A city a university that was totally integrated in the city, a neighborhood that was diverse, a neighborhood that was off the university and the university is off the neighborhood. And she decided we are not going to continue to be looking inwards. We are not going to continue to be defensive about our neighborhood. We are going to do something that nobody else has done, and that is our top priority as an institution will be to save the neighborhood, not because we are good guys, because actually we will not be a good institution with a rundown institution. Probably the most remarkable vision that was put together in a shared vision among faculty, staff, and the board. She created a board committee specifically to focus on West Philadelphia. You know, you have the audit committees and the finance committees. You actually had a West Philadelphia committee with board members who are asking the administration, what have you done on this issue? Every single year. So with all of that, we came in, and I was lucky to be part of the group that was handed this challenge, and I decided to actually live in the neighborhood that I wanted to be part of revitalizing. Was the first vice president in the history of Penn, in the recent history of Penn, that actually did not live in the main line or in the burbs, but lived on the edge of campus. And as you can see, it was a comprehensive strategy of adding retail, more safety, investing in public education, and the like. Over the next 10 years, we did about $2 billion worth of work. About $1.3 billion was on campus, and $700 million worth of projects off campus. Of that, a cinema, a 6-screen cinema, the first commercial run cinema in the city of Philadelphia, a supermarket that was open 24 hours, that today is actually grossing $900 a square foot. The pro forma at the time was $250, and the guy was we had to incentivize him to show up because he didn't think that there was a market. We added about 500,000 square feet of retail, local and national, and I was telling someone that just by the end of our tenure, an audit was done about the kind of retail that we added over 10 years, and by pure luck, it was 50-50, 50% local and 50% was national. And I can tell you, I need to keep this on, I can tell you that when we inherited the real estate portfolio that Penn owned at the time, the average rent was about $17 a square foot. Today, along 40th Street and along Walnut, the average rent is $75 a square foot, one of the most attractive retail markets in Philadelphia. I felt we accomplished, we got to our goal. When you get into a cab in Philadelphia today, you see the map of the city. About 10 years ago, that map was from the river of the Schuylkill to the river of the Delaware, and University City was totally blank. Today, when you get in a cab and you are looking at the city map, it actually shows University City. We got on the map, literally we got on the map. So most important, we have added quite a bit of retail and the like, but most important, Judy had an amazing commitment to public education. Rather than building like other schools that we will not name, magnet schools or private schools, and kind of give a token to the community, she actually decided to work with the school district that we are going to build a public school, a neighborhood school, and that she is going to negotiate a tri-party agreement with the school district, the teachers union, to actually get relief of the union rules, and Penn, to build Penn Alexander School. We built that school, we turnkey it to the school district. Both my sons went to that school, so I am like the old commercial. I am not just a card member, but a customer. And it is one of the best schools in Philadelphia. It goes from pre-K to 8th grade. Most of the kids that graduate are going to the top schools in the city and graduating with great honors. And 25% of the students that are in this school are Penn affiliated. 75% have nothing to do with Penn. You guys are in the real estate business. When there is a catchment area to be drawn, that must have been, that was extremely difficult, because if you are on a house on this side of the line, you are not on the inside. The real estate market had a price to this public school, and the price is $75,000. Two houses that are identical on one street. One house is in the catchment area. The other house on the other side of the street is outside the catchment area. $75,000 in value is the differential. I mean, this is how you end up investing in communities. We invested in University City District, a community development group that never existed, and Penn underwritten that effort by $3 million a year to add safety ambassadors, people on bikes and kind of taking care of the major commercial corridors, people who are cleaning and removing graffiti, marketing, in terms of branding University City and the like. Amazing transformation, and then back in 2004, we as an administration were the first to receive the ULI Award for Excellence as a non-developer entity. And at the time, since 2004, we started to be visited by every campus in America trying to understand what the story was. And I was a bit slow, but after a while I said, I think there's a business here. Because nobody has done this before. And it's interesting to see it from the outside, but by God, when you are on the inside, when you are dealing with university councils and faculty meetings, and people are saying, why are you investing in cinema and not in a classroom building? Why are you putting money in a public school and not building a research building? These are tough decisions. Being on the inside just gave us an amazing exposure to how institutions work. So in 2006, I left and created U3 Ventures, that now is U3 Advisors. And the great timing, so this was about a year before the recession, and it's great timing to leave and run your own business. But I would actually not have done it anyway differently, because the recession has taught us quite a bit, and I'm glad that we were not just enjoying a bubble, not knowing whether we are adding value or not. But in the middle of the recession, we received a call from folks who visited Penn. And everybody at Penn was telling me, have you guys talked to Omar and U3 at the time? So I get a call from the Kresge Foundation in Detroit. This is now 2008, middle of the recession. The three auto companies filed, or two filed for bankruptcy. And they said, is there an anchor-based strategy to revitalize Detroit? Again, 2008, it's doom and gloom everywhere. And we made a bet. We were small. We were only 4 people at the time. We made a bet that if we can make it in Detroit, we can make it anywhere else. And I can't say this in Detroit, but I really didn't have many other choices. So we went for it. We scanned Midtown, and we focused on the core of the city. I believe I have... so this is Detroit. This is the river here. Canada is on this side. This is the only place in America where Canada is south of America. And this is downtown, and this is Midtown. And interesting, in Detroit, similar to many other cities, how do we revitalize cities? Let's build a stadium. Let's build a casino. Casinos are wonderful place-making strategies. Of course, none work. They have done about 4 of them. A stadium. They did the Renaissance Center, which took all of the life out of downtown and put it in a fortress. And downtown was a ghost of a town. It was a ghost town. And then we came in and we did some analysis, and we said, guys, your core is really in Midtown. It's about 10 minutes away from downtown, but you are totally focused on the wrong in the wrong place. Why? Because you look at the anchors. We have Detroit Medical Center. We have Wayne State University, we have Henry Ford System. Wayne State University has the largest medical school in the country, one of the oldest universities in the country. And look at what we are dealing with. Henry Ford, almost 10,000 employees, about $2.6 billion of an operating budget, 30,000 students, 7,000 faculties. Overall, it's about 60,000 people show up every day in a 2 square mile section of town. If I had brought you there in 2008, you would absolutely say I'm lying, because there's nobody on the street, there's no retail, there's no life. Where are the 60,000 people? They live in the burbs, they come in cars, they go to garages, take bridges from the garage to their building, and they never show up in public life. So we did something that was kind of out there, and became our main focus. And that is, how do you deal with people who are saying we are not Penn and we are not Philadelphia and we are Detroit, you know, there is nothing here that you can do. Well, we took 60,000 records, 30,000 employees and 30,000 students, and we used GIS database. And each dot here that you see is a dot of one person. For that person, we know their age, we know which department they work in, we don't know their social security number, we know their salaries, we know where they live, and how long they have been with the institution. And we looked at all of the 60,000 records and we said, PhD students live closer to campus than MBA students. School of Medicine students live closer than law school students. People who are making somewhere between 25 to 35, making less than $75,000 and are of the age of 25 to 35, we had all of that information, have a tendency to live closer to their employee. So we went in front of the 3 CEOs of the universities and the foundation, and we said, if we can incentivize people to change the demand, to change their behavior, we believe we can introduce demand to this market in ways that the market on its own will never do. So before we did that, we also told them, look at how much of that demand is leaking. You have less than 10% of your employees living in Midtown. You have 5% of your billions of dollars of goods and services being purchased from Detroit. Why is that important? Every dollar that you buy, if it's being bought from outside the city, there is no multiplier effect. That company that can clean your windows or fix your elevators or provide your food for the cafeteria, if they are in town, they are hiring people in town. They are paying taxes in town. Your dollar is multiplying. They are out in the burbs or they are 200 miles away, that dollar is leaking and is never showing up again. So we looked at their hiring model, at their hiring patterns. We basically looked at the median profile of people around them. And we said, your average salary is $50,000. And the median family income is $20,000. It doesn't take a rocket science to say people who work here do not live here. So we worked with all of that and introduced what became now, this is kind of very, this is 6 years old, so everybody in the world now use live, buy, and hire local, and that's kind of the strategy. The idea is, how do you create a framework that allows these institutions to use their dollars and their people to generate higher economic development locally, and in doing so you are giving a boost to the economy and giving boost to the real estate market in the locality. We drove demand through a Live Midtown program. If you are an employee of one of these institutions, you get $25,000 to buy a house. And given where the recession was, people used that to actually buy the entire house. Meaning that, whereas before in a normal market that would have been the down payment for a house. We did something that we didn't do at Penn, and that is we wanted to incentivize people who rent. So we looked at the differential in rental price between people who live in the burbs and people who live in town. You pay higher taxes and you pay higher insurance. We said we will normalize that. And if you want to rent in Midtown, you get a $2,500 the first year and $1,000 the second year to retain you. This program attracted 1,200 families in a 1.5 to 2 year period. To just compare that to the Penn program, which was not as similar, it took 10 years for Penn to reach 800 families. In a 1.5 years, this is the most successful employer-based incentive program for housing. We had the luxury of having been retained in Detroit for the past 6 years. This year, the foundation asked us to scan the same data after 5 years. So how well have you done? How many families, and what is the profile? The amazing thing about an anchor-based strategy is that the universities and the hospitals are extremely diverse. So you know, when you are dealing with revitalization, you are dealing with real estate development and community development, The normal conversation is about gentrification. Am I gentrifying or not? But if I'm an employer that I have fantastic diversity of income and age and ethnic background, well, those are the same people that will show up and buy houses and live in the neighborhood. And the neighborhood continued to be an amazing, amazingly diverse neighborhood. Whole Foods came to Detroit because of the anchor-based strategy. The entire city of Detroit did not have one national chain of supermarkets, and then when they came and actually are in Midtown. And I actually wrote a very emotional email to the presidents of the institutions and the president of Kresge. After the opening happened at 8 o'clock in the morning. I haven't been inside, so I said, I will show up at 11 o'clock. And so I come in at 11. There's a line that was around 2 blocks, and the Detroit blocks are 800 feet long. These are big blocks. So I said, okay, maybe they just opened it. So I showed up at 2 o'clock. I showed up at 4 o'clock. The line is still there. And what really was remarkable is that we are not dealing with a neighborhood that has the regular profile of a Whole Foods. We are dealing with, there is Section 8 housing next door. There is Hope 6. There are all sorts of income diversity within the neighborhood that we are in. You have the grandmother that is living in an affordable elderly housing, and you have the young family that just moved in. And what is really amazing is that it is, the way I saw it, it's a human basic right to actually be able to buy fresh food. It's not just luxury for people who apparently make money. It's actually for everybody should have the right to be able to access food. So amazing investments over the past several years. Rental occupancy is off the chart. All of this is in a city that is actually shrinking and in bankruptcy. And we are now dealing with Midtown, which when we did the focus geography, this is what place-based strategies. You are trying to change the economic underpinning of a neighborhood to create a real estate market that works. There are many stories in the Financial Times and the Economist and the New York Times and Shinola. I don't know if you guys saw Shinola watches and bikes move to Detroit, and they are manufacturing watches and bikes and assembling them in Midtown. Amazing stories of revitalization. One of our Milano Bakery, which was 2 blocks away from Wayne State, was about to go bankrupt. It's the one large bakery in what was known as Eastern Market. And we took them to meet with procurement managers, and rather than buying the baked goods for the cafeterias from 200 miles away that are frozen, they actually bought it locally. Milano Bakery is thriving with and expanding, and all of this creates a sense of vibrancy and a sense of revitalization that is remarkable. The amazing thing is that last year, we and our client, the Midtown Detroit Inc., which is the organization that we helped create, which is the community development organization, won the same award that we won 10 years ago for PLAN. And so every time now I meet a client, yes, it takes about 5 or 6 years and we can get you a ULI award. I hope nobody here tells that to ULI, because that's not a good thing. So a lot of outcomes, lots of investments. The anchors are spending $500,000 a year on the community development organization to create the local capacity to do community development. The incentive programs were half done by the institutions and matched by philanthropy and the state. So there is amazing, great ideas. And now that brings us here. So what were the challenges when you think of the Penn strategy that was, okay, Ivy League institution in a 5th largest city? So can you duplicate or replicate this model in not a big city, but still Detroit, 750,000 people, and can you do it without the private sector, the private institution that has $6 billion of endowment, and you are dealing with Wayne State, a public institution, and the like. And we felt, okay, so after 6 years, we believe we have been able to demonstrate that. The question is really, can an anchor institution strategy be applied to a very suburban location? Can you generate a similar excitement and similar vibrancy in a place that is you are dealing with a suburban typology that is extremely difficult to bring density and vibrancy to? And that's where the challenge here was. And as you can see, we like to solve problems that we haven't solved before. We do solve problems from the past as well. That's how we keep generating some income. But we also like to take on problems that we have not done before. So now this brings me back to 2 to 3 years almost. And I had a conversation with Dr. Lowe a year after he showed up here. And we were dealing with the fact that there was a big master development plan for East Campus, and that was coming to a place where it was not the right decision for the institution to make, and the institution pulled away from that development. And after some conversation with Wallace, I believe Wallace went and visited Penn on his own. He didn't tell me, and apparently just walked around. And then he came back and he says, next week I have a retreat with the deans of all of the schools, and I want you to come. And I thought I was being set up because there were 2 topics for the President's Retreat. One topic was the MOOCs, so all of the distance learning, and the idea that actually is based on the fact that place does not matter, that you can take the same course no matter where you are. And then I was the second part of the retreat where I'm trying to really argue hard that place does matter. So anyway, I started by saying, and the first time to meet with the deans, I knew some of them, but I didn't know all of them. And I started showing them slides like I am showing you of the institution, of how the institution sees itself. How did I get those slides? You go through the marketing websites and the marketing material. This is the stuff that new interested students and family get handed when they visit the college. It's really amazing scenery of an institution that has classical collegiate type architecture, amazing landscaped spaces. It harks back to its roots as an agricultural school. Fear the Turtle is here somewhere, somewhere here. I mean, it really is a remarkable package. And then I showed them this. And I said, well, you see yourself in a certain way. The entire world sees you in this way. Because this is your door step, this is your gateway. People do not see any of the other pictures and images until they pass along the one-store liquor store that didn't have enough money to actually paint the eye with white, the cheap motels, the extremely auto-oriented Route 1, and more and more. Of course, some of you are smart enough to see that I use black and white for those images. And of course, that's purely for impact, but it kind of tries to put a contrast between what is here and what we can do. And then I asked the deans, and I said, is this our destiny? Is it just we are unlucky? We found ourselves in a place that is just surrounded by all of these nondescript, extremely offensive, especially for you architects and people who understand what built environments can in fact do to inspire you. This is just our destiny. And I argued, it's actually our making. It's not our destiny. The fact is that for years and years, we as an institution decided that we are going to cluster uses, similar uses, in certain clusters. We accepted the suburban typology of the campus, and we looked with disdain to what was known as downtown, and that, as some of you know, is a joke. I one time came to meet with the mayor, and he says, "Well, meet me in downtown." I said, "And where is that?" And it turned out that the garage, which is the tallest building, is really the landmark that tells you something when a garage is the landmark for a town. And there was clear intent that for decades, similar to how Penn clearly started to look inwards and put its loading docks on public streets and getting the entrances of its buildings to be from the courtyards, Maryland for a long time decided that there isn't really much going on in downtown, and I will retreat. And how do I retreat, and how do I contrast or mitigate the contrast between who I am and what image I want to project, and the realities around me? I retreat with passive spaces that are remarkably good to look at, but are extremely boring. They are great vistas to the chapel, great greens in front of the engineering school, and there aren't people. Where are the people? It doesn't say anything, and that is where the way we justify it to ourselves, it's a college in the park. A park setting, you come into the park and you go and enjoy the park inside, and you really don't need to worry about what's happening. So I made the argument that in fact where we are is not because we are unlucky, it is because we as an institution for decades decided to actually take our built environment and manage it in a certain way. And the idea was, why can't we embrace the edges? And why can't we fill the edges with uses? Route 1 is not a barrier. Route 1 in Hyattsville is an amazing urban street that has retail and housing and mixes of uses on both sides, has parking that is allowed on both sides. It's the exact same 72 feet that we have across our campus. Route 1 appears and is perceived as a barrier because of the nothingness that we, as an institution, decided this is how we are going to push the city away because we are so afraid of the city. So that's the pivoting. And rather than think of East Campus as before, the prior administrations thought, you know, this is so undesirable and so not so attractive that I'm going to build a town center in East Campus. I'm going to control it, and I'm going to keep the riffraffs out, and this will be my town center. I mean, how could you do that? And you actually have a whole community that decided there is a fabric here, there's a downtown. There is a grid. Somebody invested in infrastructure. There's sewer. There are lights. There are streets and sidewalks. Why would you ignore this? And that idea of pivoting from we are going to take on this issue by doing something that we control, to take this issue on in a much more integrated way, and in a way that says, I am going to actually ask the community what the community wants. And we made the bet that when we ask the community what they want, they are going to say exactly what we want. And that we will be able to work with the community to build a downtown that is very different downtown. And that started about 2 years ago when we looked at everything that the institution controls and looked at Route 1 and said, how can we fill in the gaps that exist on Route 1? How can we maximize the potential purple line? And how can we look at, how can we use downtown as a tapestry of opportunities to build buildings and mixes of uses that are not of us, but are of the community that also our students and faculty would enjoy. We then had the fortune to get hired by CP Cup. CP Cup is the College Park University CP Cup, College Park City University Partnership. And when we engaged with the town, several town hall meetings, several meetings with council, as everybody predicted, this notion that we want to be a good, thriving, diverse, sustainable college town is everybody's interest, not just Wallace Lowe, not just few members here or there. It's actually even the people that work here. We came out with 5 strategies focused on housing development, very similar, as you can see, from the Penn strategies in West Philadelphia: public safety, transportation, education. And we started to focus as a company, as advisors to the institution, on how are we going to create real estate opportunities to start filling the gap. And as you can see, one of our first projects was the hotel project that is a 4-star hotel that is going to be, in many ways, the way we thought about it, within half a block away from the Purple Line. It will be the only way that you experience the campus and cross the campus on foot. People are going to come to the hotel, park in the garage of the hotel, and then cross Route 1 and engage the mid-core of the campus by foot. Something that today, there is really no way, all of the gateways of the institution are vehicular gateways. And as you know, we are expanding our presence and ideas around the hotel with an innovation district idea. How can you take the engineering school research activity and create commercialization that happens around the hotel now that the hotel is done? One of the things that we worked very hard on is that that hotel also needed to change the typology that has been accepted along Route 1. The typology of cars are first. You welcome the cars first and foremost. You make sure that they get the frontage because we want to safely park the cars. And then whatever the building is in the back. This is a building that actually takes a city grid approach to it. It will have about 20,000 square feet in the back and 18,000 square feet in front of retail. And the retail is happening along Route 1. And in fact, the garage is in the back rather than in the front. And and the entrance is, as I said, a half a block away from a metro station or the Purple Line. It will have 43,000 square feet of meeting spaces. Here is an example of what this demand question that I was talking about earlier means. Institutions create demand. Today, there are many conferences that are happening in Baltimore and DC that are sponsored by the University of Maryland because there is no supply to have it accommodated here. There are many visitors. Many of you are students. I'm just assuming, and I'm going to make a bet, when your parents came and you were undergraduates and your parents came to visit with you, in all likelihood they stayed in downtown DC or in Baltimore, and in all likelihood they came, they did, you know, the homecoming weekend, they attended the football game, and then dinner with the parents was in DC or Baltimore. It was not here because there is no place to go. This place has no stickiness. This place was transactional. You come in, you attend class, and then you get out. And how do you create actually a community if that is the environment? How do you create a community if most of the people who live here are in fact transitional because they are students? How can you create a community that is largely about students? So the hotel was our first project, and as you know and heard, the transaction was approved by the governor about 4 months ago. The construction fence is up, closing is happening next month, and construction is starting in the next few weeks. The hotel, this is a transaction, so now I'm going to just try to diverge a bit from the strategy, because you guys are in real estate, so you will enjoy some of the facts. So how did we do this transaction? Well, we quickly came to realize that any transaction with the university is a transaction with the state. Now just imagine you are trying to sign a transaction with the entire state of Maryland, where every piece of that transaction requires for the decisions to bubble up to the governor, to the Board of Public Works, and then come back down again. So we quickly said, this is not going to work. This is not going to get to materialize You can have a great strategy, but if you cannot find a way to implement that strategy, your strategy and vision means nothing. It's just on paper. And actually, the first day I was here, I was told we've had enough PowerPoint projects. And PowerPoint projects are projects that never came to materialize. So we quickly said, we need the foundation here. So the foundation, which is an existing university foundation, is separate and apart and a private entity, not part of the state system. We said to the foundation, you guys need to be our vehicle for this transaction. We will sell the land. So the 3 acres that the hotel is sitting on was sold from the state, from state government, approved by the Board of Public Works, for that 3 acres to be sold to the foundation of the University of Maryland at market value. The foundation then entered into a long-term lease with Southern Management, which is David Hellman, and that lease is a transaction between the foundation and David Hellman. Now, of course, you know things get complicated here. The documents are this thick, and every meeting with lawyers, there are lawyers representing too many parties. But at the end of the day, the most important key elements here is that this is that financing is not subordinated to land. As you guys graduate from here, you will know that this is a huge exception, and I'm assuming, Rob, you will concur with me on the fact that banks who want to finance projects want to be secure by the land, not just by the improvement above the land. We basically said this is an institution that will be here 200 years from now. The land will never be subordinated, and David Hillman accepted that from day one. We have a personal guarantee about completion. We have zero financial assistance from the University of Maryland. This is a 4-star hotel where every financial feasibility today tells you that you can barely build a courtyard hotel. You can never build a conference center. But we found, and this is the interesting thing, we found in David Hillman a person who is as committed to this vision and as conventional thinker that says, look, I am only 20 minutes away from DC. I can cut the pricing on DC by only 20 bucks or 30 bucks, and I can get DC business for conferences and hotel rooms and the like. And on top of that, I have a huge institution across the street from me. And I'm going to not call this the Hilton. I'm not going to call it the Marriott. I'm going to call it the hotel at the University of Maryland to totally tie my brand to the brand of the institution. So when a professor in the School of Architecture wants to have a conference, it's going to happen across the street. It's going to be very natural for that to happen. The hotel, you know, you do not have to like the architecture. Think about this in 2 different ways. One is that there is an urban design and then there's an architecture. From an urban design point of view, I believe this project scores extremely highly because it totally changes the typology of buildings along Route 1. It fronts Route 1. It provides 20,000 square feet of retail along Route 1. It actually hides the garage and the car access. It really establishes the urban edge that Route 1 has lacked. And because of that lacking, created the perception of a barrier. The architecture, you know, my sense has always been we cannot build buildings that look like the on-campus buildings. We needed to do a contemporary architecture. Architecture, especially in what we are coining now the Innovation District, needs to really aspire to the future rather than be tied too much in the history. But there is a play with the modern materials and brick and more traditional materials on campus. But I really believe the most important part is this idea of the urban design forum. This is where, in all likelihood, the big donations, you know, when Rob makes a lot of money, and we would be asking him for donations. This is where we are going to have the lunch or dinner, Rob, with amazing views of the campus across the street. So that's one project among many projects. We did something that for us was extremely obvious, and for many was, why? We actually just said, so who owns the shopping center next door? Now, I have to believe many of the folks here knew Rob, and Rob, you have been involved with the real estate department, but the administration had no clue. The administration did not have any relationship with folks who own buildings and own parcels in downtown within a stone throw from the edge of the campus. So we looked at the campus, at the downtown, and amazingly found this is the campus here. I don't know if you can see, and of course this is Potbelly's, I believe. So this is Lehigh, this is Knox. This entire parcel is empty with now a bookstore, and the bike shop used to be here. This is the shopping center. This is where Applebee's and FedEx is. But both these two lots are majority parking and very traditional in a strip mall typology. And then you have a let's say a Quality Inn, that the name is a bit more ambitious than its true brand, and a diner. But in this assemblage of 4 city blocks, you have 1 million square feet of development capacity based on the sector plan. And we started saying, let's just find out who owns it, and let's go in as an institution and not try to buy stuff to just push people away. Let's try to find ways to partner with the private sector. So we actually looked at who the owners are. We then went back to CP Cup, the community development organization that has the university and the city involved, and we did a visioning exercise that included the community and city council folks, and we all we all came to a conclusion that there could be tremendous opportunities for development along Route 1. You can see the campus is up on top. We can have the office buildings. We can have the market rate housing, not for students, but for graduate students and for faculty and staff. We can have retail and totally enhance the retail experience. Retail that is not about fast food and cheap beer, but about much more. How can, what are those types of retail? We believe a supermarket would be a fantastic place where students and community can intermingle very naturally without having to say, this is university and this is community. You want to find these common mechanisms. This is, for some of you may come to be master campus planners, and the entire campus planning discipline is a flawed business. It basically looks at the campus as a unit, totally ignores its edges, puts the most precious uses, the college hall, the place where the president and the provost sit in the core, and pushes all of the nuisance uses, garages and facilities departments and bus depots to the edges. But these are the edges that actually are our face to the community. So you are putting your back, giving your back to the community, and then when the community goes down, this place is just sucks. I mean, well, but your actions created an extremely difficult urban condition. And rather than putting parking garages and storage facilities, think of cinemas and retail and music venues and coffee shops and wholesome bars, not what we see in some places, supermarkets, all sorts of uses that, as human beings, we actually, whether we are adults or we are young, we would be using. These are some of the visuals that we are hoping to see along Route 1, and we are very excited about the opportunities. We are excited about, these are many of the projects that currently are active. I'm not going to go into detail, but we are really envisioning a 4 or 5 city block that is actually, you will not ask the question anymore where downtown is, where you as students will want to be there most of your time, where faculty and staff want to live here, where the community comes to engage with students in a very positive engagement, rather than worrying about the nuisances that undergraduate students would cause. And we believe that in 5 to 10 years, we will have a college park that actually is of the university, and the university is of College Park. Forgot to mention that we worked with the community on a charter school called CPA, College Park Academy. So we are, as you can see, using similar tools. Schools, public spaces, mixes of uses. We are trying now to consolidate all of the office space that the institution leases outside the campus in the entire region and consolidate that into College Park to create an office market in College Park. You will see all sorts of different types of uses, but this is very intentional. This is literally a craftsman work where you are sitting down and you're saying, how can I create mixes of uses where College Park in the morning and at night feels safe, feels vibrant, feels diverse, and in fact is a place that is the right introduction to a great institution like the University of Maryland. And I'm going to stop here. Thank you.